Online harassment is something that almost every online creator experiences to varying degrees. From spamming to swatting, people have to deal with this every single day. But never did I think that my series on former To Catch a Predator host and NBC journalist Chris Hansen would result in some of the most aggressive harassment that I have ever experienced. A few months ago, dark internet YouTuber Nexpo created an in-depth video into an individual named Amanda that had harassed him and many other creators, including Some Ordinary Gamers, Loey Lane, Mama Max, and NightDocs. She spammed their replies on Twitter using multiple accounts, claiming the most degenerate things about them that you could possibly imagine. The video was a success, and it was a massive inspiration for me to come forward with my story as well. Ever since I've been critical of Chris Hansen, probably around May, an unhinged figure has found his way into my replies. His name? Anonymous Gene. In the past, he had, and I believe is still, working directly with Chris Hansen, informing him of anyone critical of him, feeding him false information, and even directly telling him who to block on Twitter. Every day, from the moment he awakes to the moment he goes to bed, he sits on his computer, setting up spam bots, engaging in doxing and harassment, and constantly stalking me and others online. Anything we do is noticed. And as you will find out today, Chris Hansen notices it too. It appears that Hansen turns a blind eye to the abhorrent harassment and doxing of me and many others, even when carried out by people he directly engages with. His silence and refusal to condemn the behaviour of people like Gene is completely irresponsible. And today, it's time we hold him accountable as we explore the files of Anonymous Gene. Okay, let's start at the beginning. If you've been watching my channel for a while, you would know about my series of videos on Chris Hansen. But if you haven't been a long-time follower on Twitter, you wouldn't know that I've actually been critical of Hansen long before then. In fact, my skepticism of Hansen started in January of last year when he knocked on Onision's door.
911, what are you reporting?
Hi, there's a person who's been stalking me online and they just showed up to my house.
Okay, and they're outside now?
Yes, they're knocking on my door.
Okay.
They have a bunch of camera people, like they're YouTube stalkers.
And the one that's knocking on your door, is he the main one that you said has been stalking you?
Yes, he's a stalker. He's yelling things at me through the door right now.
Okay, and what do we know his name at all?
It's Chris Hansen.
In my opinion, this seemed like a publicity stunt, and I turned out to be correct months later. You can watch my second Hansen video for more info on that, but I digress. Ever since that moment, I noticed a rather unhinged account lurking around the Hansen circles, named Anonymous Gene. He rebranded a few times due to him being suspended, but Gene usually had a Guy Fawkes profile pic with some corny bio about him coming after Onision. This Gene character seemed to have a rather unnatural devotion to Chris Hansen, and over time, I started to find out why. Gene started to engage in some pretty insane levels of online harassment, past the usual trolling and spamming that's pretty common in the anti-Onision community. And it all started when he publicly posted Onision's phone number and address on Twitter. I'm of the opinion that doxing is almost never justified because it can impact not only the intended target, but their children, siblings, parents, and other family members as well. People online can get pretty crazy, and Gene is a perfect example. He decided that posting Onision's address and phone number wasn't enough, so he turned his attention to his family members and doxed Onision's mother, father, sisters, and grandfather, people who had absolutely nothing to do with Onision and who have no public presence other than Onision's mother. When I went to Gene's account to find out some more about him, he had also linked a Google document full of other resources, including more doxers, Facebook groups from Onision's area to post about him in, and a full comprehensive guide on how to submit false copyright strikes to Onision's channel. Yes, you heard me correctly, Gene basically created a guide on how to commit perjury. It was at this point where I started to do a bit of digging into who Gene was and his connection to Chris Hansen. Before all of the news broke about Hansen knocking on Onision's door, there was a low-quality video leaked of Chris Hansen outside Onision's house.
Carver, Washington. We've been on his trail for the last day or so. He knows we want to talk to him. I knocked on the door. I heard his voice. I heard Kai. They called the sheriff's department. The deputy has now responded. They're talking to him now. Another sheriff's department car showing up here. We explained what we were doing. They didn't seem to have a problem with it, except there was a complaint, so they're taking a report now. The sheriff did tell us that there was a mail call indicating Greg was in there. And I'm pretty sure I heard Greg's voice calling the police. Anyway, we're going to talk to the other sheriff's department.
This clip, as you can probably tell, was filmed on a phone, videoing a Google Voice window on a computer screen. In the corner, we can see a few digits of Chris Hansen's phone number. Obviously, I've blurred them out here for security reasons, but this will be useful later, so keep it in mind. This clip was originally leaked by Onision detractor account Big Money Onision, along with 3 other screenshots of a public records request and alleged texts between Chris Hansen and none other than anonymous Gene. It came out months later that Gene was indeed the source of the clip, and that he gave it to Big Money Onision for it to leak. So it looks like Gene has direct contact with Chris Hansen, working with him directly on the Onision case. But all the connections didn't stop there. Chris Hansen publicly followed Gene's account on Twitter and even interacted with him directly, with Gene responding that it was always a pleasure working with Chris. It was then when my former colleague Josh Pescator took to Chris Hansen's official Facebook page to ask if Gene was working with Chris Hansen. Hansen replied that he was worked with and not for, basically confirming everything that I had suspected all along. Gene also leaked text messages of Hansen talking with his former assistant, Vincent Nkocha, who went off the rails, as well as an alleged conversation with Chris prior to the messages being leaked out. This was just the start of many conversations that Gene would leak between Hansen and himself, talking about various topics, but mainly about Vincent. But what was leaked next would confirm everything that I had suspected. On the 1st of February, Gene would leak this screenshot on Twitter. The original tweet that this was accompanied with has been lost to time, but we have the full resolution screenshot here to look over. Now, if you're not aware, on Google Voice, the number of the person you're talking to shows in the address bar of your browser. In previous screenshots, Gene made sure to censor this out so that he didn't leak Hansen's number. But Gene isn't the smartest guy, and forgot to censor the number on this one specific instance. This number linked up with the last few digits we saw in the leaked video we mentioned earlier, and I confirmed with several people behind the scenes that this is indeed the real number of Chris Hansen. And if you look it up on a service like Spy Dialer, it says the number belongs to none other than Christopher Hansen.
Ladies and gentlemen, we got him.
Due to Gene's carelessness, we found a direct and undeniable link between Hansen and anonymous Gene. The same Gene engaging in doxing Onision's extended family, creating guides on how to falsely copyright strike him, and just generally carrying out targeted harassment campaigns to anyone critical of Chris Hansen. But little did we know, the worst was about to come. For a few months, Jean would stay mostly quiet because for the most part, I had gotten bored with the Onision and Chris Hansen story. However, over time, I started to realize that there was so much more in Chris Hansen's past that had not yet been properly reported on. And that, along with Nicholas Diorio's video series on Hansen, inspired me to create my own. My first video was published on the 21st of June, and it was a massive success. But not everyone was happy about it. And this is where the real shit begins. The day after my video's release, anonymous Jean attempted to submit a copyright strike on my video, impersonating as Onision. In a complete turn of events, Onision himself stepped in, told YouTube he was being impersonated, and stopped my video from going down. Probably one of the only good things he's ever done. He shared the full notice to Nicholas Diorio, who tweeted it out, showing that the video attempting to be taken down was indeed my video.
Just to be clear, I'm not saying Chris Hansen requested this to go down. However, this is what happens when you work with unpaid internet doxers, with an anonymous profile pic. There's no one else to blame. People have been warning you for months. Vincent too.
It was also around this time that Hansen's mods, and subsequently Hansen, were being actively warned about Jean. They claimed that Jean does whatever he wants, and what he does is on his shoulders alone, basically negating any responsibility that Hansen could possibly have. This month, Jean doxed my former associate Josh Pescator, making accounts impersonating his sisters and mother. It's at this time where Jean started to up the ante, threatening me with my dox unless I removed my Hansen video. Throughout this time, Jean was still leaking text messages between him and Hansen, once again very carelessly with the phone number still showing in the address bar. Chris Hansen, why do you continue to work with this individual? And why do you not look at his actions, disavow those actions, and make sure you don't work with him in the future? You are working with a person who publishes doxes of innocent people and working with a person that is threatening to dox me. Chris Hansen, I hope I get a response from you regarding this because this is pretty serious stuff and I can't believe that you would continue to work with this person. I have it on good authority that your mods have actually asked you to stop working with Jean, but you refuse to do so. Hopefully I get a response here.
Over the weekend, some harsh criticism. Not going to engage. Just going to keep pushing on and do what I do, which is pursue justice for predators of all kinds, let the voice of victims be heard, and go after the kinds of stories that I think are important. I've said this before, I'm not your typical YouTuber. I'm a reporter with a presence on YouTube, and I do the best I can. In the meantime, I want to make something very, very clear. I do not condone harassment or doxing of any sort. I've been the victim of vicious doxing and harassment recently. It's the subject of a criminal investigation. More on that soon. But anybody who says they represent me and engages in this kind of behavior doesn't represent me. Not at all.
On the 6th of July, this screenshot was leaked by journalist and producer of the Onision documentary, Stephen Asarge. What you're looking at is a screenshot from Chris Hansen's phone, showing his most frequent contacts. According to this screenshot, Hansen talks to Jean more than his own sons. Asarge gave me some more context to this screenshot a few days ago, saying it was sent to him by Vincent Nkotra, Chris Hansen's former assistant. Chris was trying to screenshot something else entirely, but he sent the wrong image by mistake, revealing his most frequent contacts. This was just one more piece in the puzzle to proving Hansen's connection to Jean. This month would also start a massive spamming and targeted harassment campaign against me, with Jean claiming that I bought and purchased my subscribers and engagement on both Twitter and YouTube. He used screenshots of my sudden growth to try and prove that I botted my YouTube subscribers, completely negating the fact that this is what happens when a video does particularly well in the algorithm. This happens to channels every single day. It's nothing new, and it absolutely does not mean that someone is botting their engagement. In fact, to make it look convincing, I would not only have to bot my YouTube subscribers, but views, likes, comments, and even live stream viewers, all using some insane AI that can detect speech and comment coherent things related to the topic at hand. It's just impossible. There is no conceivable way that I could bot 120,000 subscribers and have no one notice. And that's negating the fact that it would literally cost me thousands and thousands of dollars a month to keep everything running. Gene would also turn his attention to my Twitter account, claiming that I also bot my followers and engagement. He used a tool called Botometer that scans accounts and uses its own algorithm to determine if accounts are likely bots or not. The Botometer scanned through my recent followers, and a number of accounts returned with a score above 4 out of 5. However, it does seem to have a rather high number of false positives, and it seems to automatically classify new accounts with very little followers as bots instantly. If you scan anyone else's account, similar results come up. It seems it wasn't just me that thought this tool was very inaccurate, because in March of 2020, Adrian Rauschfleisch and Jonas Kaiser from Harvard University published a paper about the false positives that were encountered while using the Botometer. They concluded, and I quote, that for social scientists as well as computer scientists working at scale, the uncertainty is too high. I've linked the entire paper in the description if you want to read it. Gene continued on his rampage, and on the 18th of July, he started spamming a Google Docs link titled List of Sock Accounts and Continual Harassment Accounts to be Removed, where my account was listed along with many others. The actual list is lost to time, but it was about 3 pages of accounts, all critical of Chris Hansen. On the 31st of July, 2020, at 5:44 p.m, an email hit my inbox. A minute later, I received 2 more. Every single one of my accounts have been suspended for violating Twitter's rules against platform manipulation and spam. This was all clearly a mistake. I never botted my engagement, and I never will. This ban was completely false and unjustified, and it all came just 2 weeks after Gene was parading around telling me I was going to be getting suspended. And everyone's eyes went straight to Chris Hansen. People started to do some digging into what contacts Hansen might have at Twitter, and something rather interesting came up. But hold on. First, we need to go back.
Recently, you might have noticed a glut of large Twitter accounts suddenly being suspended. If you follow me on Twitter, you'll probably recognize some of these accounts because I retweet them a lot because I find them funny. Lame as Chris appealed his suspension, and after waiting days with no response, he decided to start looking into what was going on here. After Lame as Chris was suspended, a Twitter account named Spazio Twat tweeted a screenshot of a Rudy Mustang tweet. In the tweet, Rudy's lamenting the deletion of Lame as Chris and Cordell, and in Spazio's tweet, he refers to them as being known cheaters who are manipulating the system to fake their popularity. Spazio thinks that these accounts are faking their engagement to appear more popular than they really are, but at this point, that's whatever, right? I mean, it's Twitter. People talk shit on Twitter, especially people who are salty because they're not as popular as they think they deserve to be. But what's a bigger deal is the fact that you can see that this guy goes around reporting people, and everyone he reports seems to get suspended like that. He literally never misses. What's up with that? So Chris keeps digging through Spazio's post history, and he finds a tweet from a year ago. This tweet is asking Twitter to reinstate an account, Corey Richardson. It not only tags Twitter and Jack, as one usually does when there's a problem on Twitter, they also tag an account at Delbius. Everyone knows who Jack is, but who's Delbius? So Chris clicks on it, and it's Del Harvey, the Vice President of Twitter Trust and Safety, who just so happens to follow and like tweets made by none other than Spazio. So you guys are able to kinda get through the red tape and just contact someone directly? That's badass. We're useful to know.
Whoa, so there's been a previous case of a Twitter employee allegedly suspending accounts who are falsely accused of botting? Hold on, that name of the employee, Del Harvey?
What does that name sound so suspiciously familiar?
The internet is swarming with predators who constantly stalk chat rooms searching for children. But Del Harvey is fighting back by hunting down online pedophiles and bringing them to justice. She's here today to uncover a disturbing world that every parent needs to be warned about. Please welcome, from pervertedjustice.com, Del Harvey. Del.
23-year-old Dell puts on her best young girl voice. She needs to verify that the man on the phone is the same man in the chat room.
Bye.
Harvey is not her real name, which she gave up long ago when she became a professional troll. Oh no! She's a professional troll! But what did she do? What did she do? Well, she posed as underage girls and boys to entrap pedophiles as administration for the website Perverted Justice, and later for NBC's To Catch a Predator. No! Del! Wait a minute! Oh my, Chris Hansen, no! Dude, she's on the payroll! The head of Twitter Trust and Safety is on the payroll!
Wait, so you're telling me a Twitter employee high up at Twitter who is allegedly assisting in suspending accounts who are falsely accused of botting worked with Chris Hansen? And my account went down for exactly the same reason in exactly the same way? How is everything lining up so much? Remember that list of sock accounts and continual harassment accounts to be removed? Well, Gene claims it was being sent by Chris Hansen to the head of Twitter security. And on top of that, there was another leaked screenshot from anonymous Gene showing Chris Hansen talking with Brandon Borman, a member of the Twitter comms team, about harassment that Hansen wants to report. It's almost like Gene and Hansen are super connected.
Yeah, apparently a list was handed over, and then a screenshot leaks of a conversation between comms at Twitter Brandon, and now all of a sudden, we've just found ourselves in a situation where everyone's accounts are suspended. Look, I'm not trying to make a sweeping allegation here, but there's clearly something that's not right going on in the community right now.
What Gene and Hansen didn't expect, though, is that I actually have a contact at Twitter, and I was unsuspended after just 4 days. So I guess their master plan didn't really work. But my colleague A-Star was also suspended along with me. He ran a Chris Hansen parody account, so you might have thought that he would have been suspended for impersonation or something like that, but no. Also, platform manipulation and spam. He had 800 followers, by the way, completely organic growth, same as me. I just find it weird that on the same day, at the same time, a total of 5 accounts, all critical of Chris Hansen, went down for the exact same unsubstantiated reason, all after Gene accused me of botting my engagement.
I think a lot of the content creators are good people, but there are some who are just out there just to churn and create a misinformation campaign. And they use bots and sock puppet accounts, and it's all about getting views on YouTube. And when they finish attacking me, they'll go on to the next person, the next person, the next person. That's what drama channels do. Who is Anonymous Gene, and why is he working for you? Well, this seems to be one of the questions of the hour. I do not know who Anonymous Gene is. I don't know whether it's a man, whether it's a woman, whether it's a group of people. I do know that somebody online named Anonymous Gene, or who calls themselves Anonymous Gene, is a fan of some of the work we've done of the Predator series, of some of the work we've done on the Onision investigation, and has acted on their own, supposedly in support of our effort. Now, I know that there have been allegations of doxing. I know there's evidence of doxing. I want to be extremely clear that I do not support doxing. I do not tell whoever Anonymous Gene is what to do, give them instructions on anything. And if I actually knew who this person was, I would tell them to stop a lot of this activity, because I just don't agree with it. I can't control what somebody whose identity I don't know does. And while it appears that they believe their motives are altruistic, I just don't agree with a lot of what they do. And I've been the victim of doxing, so I understand what that's like. and I would never take part in it, and I would never condone it. And I don't care whether it's somebody who says horrible, untrue things about me or not. We don't condone doxing. Did you have any involvement with the coordinated Twitter ban wave to deplatform the Goon Squad? Are you still in contact with Del Harvey? No. I mean, I know Del Harvey. I worked with her when she was a part of Perverted Justice. I haven't talked to Del in 2 or 3 years. If you know anything about Twitter, you just don't call somebody. And even if you did and knew somebody from a past professional life, people just don't cancel your Twitter account or suspend it. There's got to be a reason. There's a review. There's an algorithm that's tripped. People have to review it and come to that conclusion. I can't just call and say something. I can complain if I think it's harassment. I can complain if I think it violates Twitter's rules, just like anybody else can complain against me if they think I violate Twitter's rules. You just don't do that. It's just not true.
After I was unsuspended, Gene went a bit mental and started spamming the Twitter CEO Jack Dorsey, saying that Chris Hansen wanted to talk to him about harassment he was receiving on the website. He also took another angle and tried to seduce Jack Dorsey's mother.
Chris Hansen has problems sleeping sometimes. You should send him a message and ask him how he deals with it. Trust me, we'll be very willing to talk to you. Beautiful place. I love art exhibits. Beautiful young lady Obama looking good. I'd love to exchange copies. Follow me. Looks so good.
Hi Mrs. Dorsey, I work with Chris Hansen to catch a predator. He would like to speak to your son. I have Chris Hansen's number for you. If you follow me, I will DM it to you.
He also started to spam multiple Twitter employees asking why me and others were still allowed on the website.
Chris Hansen to catch a predator would like to know why Twitter is allowing the following people and Zoc and bot accounts to harass him. He has reported these accounts hundreds of times with no results.
When he did this, he had a habit of tagging Jack and Chris Hansen at the end of the tweet. And what do you know, the next day, Chris Hansen himself starts replying to Jack Dorsey's mother with his coronavirus report, tagging himself and Mrs. Dorsey at the end of the tweet, almost exactly how Gene did it just the day before. And of course, here come the allegations again. Gene started to levy some pretty serious claims against me, saying that I was on a pedophile watch list in Queensland. I've never been to Queensland, and I'm certainly not on any list. But during this time, there seemed to be another account replying to Mrs. Dorsey and random Twitter employees. Ferret Lady.
I am going to get married soon. Will you and Tim be able to come? I wish one of you would notice this account and notice what it is about. You, Mom, Dad, Andrew, or Jack. I just need one of you to notice it. I would gladly cook for you guys if one of you would study this account and notice what it is about. Jack, I would love for you to follow me. I know that is a lot to ask for, but I only have one follower that thought I was worth following so far. I would love for you to follow me. Jack, can I please be the 4,512th person you follow? Please, I already have one very famous person following me.
But there was something really strange about this account. It's the fact that it only had one follower. Oh, big deal, right? Accounts get followers all the time. Well, the one follower on this account was none other than Chris Hansen himself. I believe that this whole time, Hansen was in cahoots with Gene. I believe that Hansen was the one who got me suspended, and he continued to work with Gene despite everyone telling him about Gene's continual doxing and harassment. But it didn't stop there. On the 14th of August, I was doxed by anonymous Gene. Up to this point, my name had been completely private, but I knew that at some point, it would all come out. because all of our tax information in Australia is public. I expected it, and I owned it. To be honest, it didn't bother me too much. Sure, I was annoyed. I wanted to keep it all private, but I guess that's just not possible on the internet. But what I didn't expect is for Jean to start posting my location, my school, and trying to get in contact with former students from my year. This guy went deep into my past to try and find anything he could about me, but he couldn't seem to find anything negative, so he started to make things up. That I was a creep, a pedophile supporter, and various other things. But then something happened that just shook me. Badly. He started to involve my family and my young sister. And it just made me sick. It's all good to come after me, because I'm a public figure. But this is insane. And there was nothing I could do about it. It was around this time when my good friend Alistair was also subject to the doxing and harassment of Jean. But unfortunately for him, Jean was able to find a lot more on him than he did on me.
For me, the doxing started on September 4th last year when Jean changed the handle for the James Swan account to my full name and began posting selfies from my inactive Facebook fan page and pretending to be me just a month after I'd been suspended off Twitter. I only found out because Jean was now telling everyone, "I'm back, follow me," under every single tweet in the commentary community. Sure enough, I was getting messages asking if it was me or not since, well, my first and last name were semi-public due to my online work as a voice actor and cinematographer outside of YouTube. And Jean didn't have much at first, but then he began posting my birthday, my city, and soon enough, my home address. But it didn't stop there. He then found and promptly shared my high school news broadcasts and even my past home addresses with images.
Jean would then start to amp up his harassment against me and would create an account posing as a news account from my area. He would follow anyone he could find from my town en masse for the hope of a follow back, and indeed about 200 people did. Here he would post about me being a pedophile supporter, along with my full name and picture. You could tell he was trying to rank in Google search so that when you search my name, the most degenerate things would pop up. This continued for months. Despite multiple reports, Twitter did absolutely nothing about it. They even had the nerve to tell me that Jean doxing my sister wasn't against their terms.
Despite being suspended, I filed an impersonation report as well as a report on my dox. To do this, Twitter had me upload a photocopy of my driver's license and an explanation for what was going on. So, what did Twitter's trust and safety team do to help me during this time-sensitive issue? I filed my report on September 4th, and I didn't hear back from Twitter about this case until October 9th, over a month later, when in response to James's impersonation report, which had been filed a month before my own. Jean got away with not just impersonating, but doxing us on the same account for months, despite countless reports. And Twitter still found the time to reject my suspension appeal just 16 days after. In fact, I noticed that the more thorough my appeals were, the quicker they got rejected.
The accusations became worse and worse over time, eventually stating that I was an actual pedophile. I'm not gonna lie, it became pretty draining. Seeing your name get smeared and your dearest family members get doxxed is definitely one of the hardest things that has ever happened to me. Naturally, I started to lose the drive to finish the Hansen series off. The continual doxing and harassment of the past few months just took it all out of me. So I created a video to basically sign off to the story. I'm fine to go ahead with the video now in a legal sense, but to be fully honest, I don't really want to. The harassment I've received over the past few months has not been amazing. I've been subjected to things that has taken a toll on me. It has taken a toll on me. And I am not ready to go ahead at this point with that video. And while most people were supportive and accepting, some were very dismissive and entitled, saying I was weak and had no principles. And to those people I say, try being harassed and doxxed for months on end and see how you feel.
Gene had already gone too far, and I contemplated what to do. You don't have a lot of options after being doxxed, but I knew Gene wouldn't stop there. He's always got involved family. And sure enough, the day after having my full name, high school, and home address made public, I got a message on Discord. Gene posted a video of my father performing on stage with his band, and he began posting it everywhere using the news handle as well as the one now being used to impersonate me. So I shot a text over to my dad asking if he'd maybe been contacted by anyone online recently. My father produced a few music videos with his band as a hobby. Not too many people really knew about them unless you were local. Logically, his engagement discovery isn't super active either, and I knew Gene would stick out pretty easily. And sure enough, he left multiple comments, posing as a fan of his music, begging to get in touch with him. Then my dad called me and said, "Who is anonymous Gene?"
But, ladies and gentlemen, it's time to finish what I started. If this entire video wasn't enough to prove how Hansen and Gene had an undeniable link, then this will be the ultimate kill shot, the climax, the final piece of the puzzle to finally prove Hansen's guilt.
Surprisingly, it didn't take long for him to figure out what Gene was all about. But what really shocked me was when my dad asked if Gene works for Chris Hansen. Turns out, Gene never mentioned Hansen once in the initial comments he left. My dad asked because he got a notification on his Facebook account. Someone liked his musician page, and it wasn't Gene. It was Chris Hansen's personal Facebook account. I couldn't believe my ears. There was no way in hell Chris stumbled upon my father's inactive fan page. Someone had to have told Chris who to look up. And if you held any doubt that this was just sheer coincidence, my father hadn't uploaded any new music within roughly a year, let alone paid for any targeted Facebook ads for 60-year-old men on the East Coast. It's also not like I worked with my father. I never promoted his music. I'd been long moved out and focusing on my own online career, which had never featured my father in any shape or form. The link was just simply not there. Unless you had both our full names and location, and given I was just doxxed the day before, there wasn't any doubt left in my mind. Chris Hansen was working with anonymous Gene the entire time.
Chris, why is Gene still doing your bidding? You know, I know there's a lot of questions about this, and I answered earlier in the show, but people are still asking. I don't know who Gene is. If I did, I would tell him not to do a lot of the things he's done. What his actual motivations are, I don't know. I have no control over him. It's frustrating to me, too. For anybody to say that he does my bidding, it's just not true. They do what they do, whoever he is. Again, I could not be more clear that I don't condone doxing, going after people's family members. I've had it happen to me. I don't publicize this, but it's a matter of a criminal investigation right now. Some vicious, horrible doxing. It's not fun. I don't condone doxing, going after people's family members. It's not fun.
If I had to list all the connections we've found between Hansen and Gene since then, I would literally be here all day. There is really that much. Like in September when Ashley Lilly tweeted out a video showing Hansen being the only follower on Gene's account where he was doxing Darby Vanity. And I think it's just undeniable at this point. Chris does know who Gene is. Chris works with Gene frequently. And I think it's safe to say that Chris knew of my and Alice's doxing all along. I find it especially messed up that the most well-known child predator catcher in the world had nothing to say when Gene was preying on children. And it's all because it's related to me, and I'm a critic. Chris's return to YouTube was never about morals or justice. It was just another stepping stone back into mainstream television. He used us all to pay off his debts. And instead of being the bigger man, explaining himself and condemning Jean, he somehow found the time to scout for interviews from the creator of the Botometer and a psychologist to discredit all of my criticisms. I picked up this story recently because although I'd stayed mostly silent on Chris Hansen, Jean was still going, more recently spamming television show A Current Affair, claiming that I'm a pedophile supporter and that I talk about having sex with my underage sister. And it just pushed me over the edge. While I don't see an end in sight for Jean's antics, I hope this can serve as a warning to never trust Chris Hansen. And you know what they say, you either die a hero or you live long enough to see yourself become the villain. Thank you all for watching, and I'll see you again next time. Bye-bye.